Go, go, Power Rangers! Na, 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 na. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Mr. Movie Show. I'm Steve.
And I'm Jay.
And today we are doing a part 2 of our Power Rangers Powerthon. We're talking about episode 1 of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, Day of the Dumpster. We just recently talked about how the Power Rangers were toys that made us, and now we're kind of going and talking about the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers first episode. So, Jay, what was your thoughts on the first Power Rangers episode?
A lot happened in those 20 minutes.
Oh, yes. I actually made some notes just because while I was watching it, I just kind of made some notes on it. What was interesting was it really, the pacing is a lot. I think that's the thing about kids shows. Watching it as a 20-year-old or 30-year-old, watching a kids show and kind of like going, gosh, it feels like it's gone by a whole lot faster. But it, for a pilot, it has to enter its, has to introduce
all the characters,
figure out kind of the plot, figure out kind of like, okay, who's in this thing, and then, I don't think really I think with Power Rangers it deals, as the shows go on, there are some episodes where it I think deals with Trini's heights, character development, but this one pretty much says, okay, Rita shows up.
She's been trapped in a dumpster.
Space dumpster. And on the moon. Or was it on the moon or was it on Mars?
Not super sure.
It's like a sandy.
It was sandy. I think that's cut some footage in there.
Yeah. They're like.
And she ends up. It looks like she's built a castle on the moon.
Castle on the moon. And I think in the Power Rangers, the moon, when we get to Saban's Power Rangers, she is thrown from space to the moon.
Okay.
Or something, but so these astronauts find this dumpster, I guess, because I guess this episode is called
Space
Dumpster, and it's got I remember it has a jewel,
a big ruby
in it, and that just because they moved it opens up, and Rita shows up and says, "I'm free! After 10,000 years, I'm free! It's time to conquer Earth!" And then, and it kind of, you see that in the first. Basically, it's the same thing that's opens for the opening credits,
Right.
And but what I liked, but then they go back into back to Earth, where we see Angel Grove, California.
Right. I forget what's the name of it. Do you remember the name of their teen hangout? It's sort of the rec center slash.
Oh, it's Angel Grove's Youth Center.
Youth Center. Okay.
I think in Beverly, because this came out in the 90s. Beverly Hills 90210 came out the same, kind of within the same era, and they had a place called the Peach Pit.
Okay.
That was their hangout spot.
Gotcha.
So they don't go to school. They and I think we talked. We introduced. So Billy is the Blue Ranger.
Right.
He wears a blue headband just because, so we know he's going to be the Blue Ranger.
Right.
And he's basically going to join Jason's karate class.
Right.
Who's the Red Ranger, and he's in a red tank top. They all wear
Yeah, they make it easy so you can know, okay, the colors match up.
Which, there's a little bit of political correctness now because Zach's the Black Ranger, and he's the black, he's African American.
Right.
And Trini's the Yellow Ranger. But I think they kind of corrected that in the future episode. But I don't want to get into that. But so they're basically kind of we kind of get to know that Zach's sort of kind of the hip hop or the 90s hip hop, and then you have Trini and
sort of just I don't know. Seems like a bunch of teens that all do karate and gymnastics.
Yes,
and get smoothies.
They get smoothies. That's pretty much hey, what about school? Who cares? So, but what I like, I think but then you had, of course, our school bullies.
Oh yeah, that show up.
Bulk and Skull.
Yeah, the school bullies who try to pick on the kids who know how to fight and do karate.
Exactly, and they were good. And it's like, and I think it was funny that Bulk and Skull go up to Bill or Jason and go, teach us how to beat people up, and he says, karate is not used for. Is used for self-defense, not to pick on people.
Yeah, I think they would have joined Cobra Kai.
Cobra Kai, they would. That would be so hilarious. Strike hard, strike Power Rangers versus Cobra Kai. No mercy. That'd be hilarious. There's an image for you. Actually, I think I was speaking, and I think we talked about this, or I found an image on when I was doing the editing for our Power Rangers thing, that they want to get Jason David Frank and Cobra Kai.
Yeah, okay.
That would be cool.
Yeah.
But anyway, it kind of does, and then there's an earthquake.
Right.
Done by Rita, and then she's like, "Oh no, it's an earthquake! What do we do? What do we do?" And
yeah, I think we cut to Zordon's
control thing, and then you see Zordon's head, and he's like, "Rita's actually doing the earthquake
after 10,000 years."
I don't know how. I mean,
yeah, there's something like what has Zordon been doing for the past 10,000 years? Did last time it seemed like his go-to move was to summon some teenagers? Did he summon like Stone Age teenagers?
I don't know.
10,000 years ago.
I don't know. Now I know when we get to the movie, the Saban's movie, he was a ranger.
Right. Yeah. Then it's more.
They go more into like they make it like
a whole like spaceship thing.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But this is like he has like a little base. He's supposed like it makes you think like he's just been sitting there for 10,000 years.
Well, yeah. I mean, like I think something to do like, and I think in the Power Rangers the movie,
right?
Something about what's his name? Ivan Ooze has something to do with putting him in the chamber or something.
Oh, right. He's trapped in a time warp.
In a time warp or something.
Right.
But that's getting into the nitty gritty.
Yeah, the details get a bit complicated when it comes to Power Rangers.
Yeah, but like I remember like the Nostalgia Critic that reviewed Turbo, a Power Rangers movie, on his show on YouTube, and he was kind of like saying, it wasn't for me, but that's okay. And, that's what his kind of thing. And then he talked about like that was kind of his ending announcing, and so he's like, I gotta go back and fight Rita Repulsa, and so they go, wait a minute, I know what I'll do. I'll get them he gets this other guy, I think his name is Lucara, who does a lot of like comic books stuff, and he's a YouTuber, and he starts going, now how does it happen in the green? And he goes and says, Zords, where does the Zords come from? How does Angel Grove have do they have a place where, they've got insurance for all these, all these kind, logical questions you want to ask Power Rangers. But, it works pretty good. I mean, but, I'm looking at it, at 3, my sense of time at 8 years old is a lot different than my sense of time at 30.
Right.
Where I'm going, gosh, it was that fast? And, we're not watching it with commercials, so it doesn't, it's like...
Yeah, there's 1/3 of the time.
Yeah, exactly. What do you think? I mean, it did really pretty set up. Goldar was the main villain.
Right.
And he, and he's got a different voice than, from the pilot to, I think, the regular show.
Right.
Because he's like, and he's a lot deeper in the pilot. I think it worked pretty good. I mean, it was interesting watching it, watching it from a sense of your viewpoint of nostalgia.
Yeah.
Versus now watching it with us going through the toys that made us Power Rangers.
Yeah.
How does that?
As soon as the little guitar riff starts going, I'm like, oh yes.
Well, and that's how I felt about when we watched Power Rangers, Saban's Power Rangers in theaters. When they brought the Go-Go Power Rangers thing, I was like, all right, now I'm back in
right.
Back in it. I liked what they did. I mean, it's a good pilot. it pretty much, it's really, I think the way it's paced is a lot faster for it's 20 minutes. I did a pilot for One Tree Hill, and One Tree Hill, it really had to set up like part 1, part 2, part 3. This one does that part 1 for 5 minutes, part 2 for 5 minutes, part 3 for 5 minutes.
Right.
So it does have a little bit more of, it's a little bit faster.
Right.
To really kind of, but I think that's just the way we proceed things. But how do you feel about the Megazord kind of now watching it kind of come together?
I guess they don't have a lot of time. I was really surprised how fast they went. Okay, Megazord time.
Yeah. And it seemed like in this movie, and I think in the show, that it took a little bit longer.
Right.
And I mean, that could also be just the fact that our pacing is,
right.
We're looking, I think that's the other thing we have to do. But I like this pilot.
Yeah.
I thought it kind of.
Did you notice anything else new that you didn't notice when you were a kid watching this?
I noticed kind of the bullies weren't as threatening as, I was watching a review of Clockstoppers, and there's like these bullies. You remember the bullies that that are like DJs?
I can't remember them in Clockstoppers.
We'll do Clockstoppers.
Okay, I remember, the whole
But he's like going, you've been sipping on some lunch, you've been eating some bad lunch meat, and he's like, and he talks to Meeker, and Meeker's like, oh, what? Go Meeker, go Meeker. And then he takes his Mountain Dew and shakes it and sprays him with it, and he throws it, and then he pushes pushes Meeker into the trash can, and one of the teachers goes, "That's a perfectly good trash can. You don't need to be throwing students at it." And I was watching it with Kelly, and she thought it was the most hilarious thing. But I liked it. I mean, it really set it up. You realize Alpha 5 is the most annoying character. I think you realize that he's going to be the most annoying character in the show. But
I noticed they showed briefly the stuff with Rita, and then she's flying around on a bicycle briefly.
Mm-hmm.
And then I guess I noticed it also in her moon castle. She has a bicycle hanging up on her wall.
Oh.
I don't know if that comes in. I can't remember if that comes in place anything later.
Okay. I think she kind of came in with this as, it kind of has that Wicked Witch of the West kind of feel. That's kind of how, when you watch it, you're like, wait a minute, this kind of reminds me of Wicked Witch of the West. And, I liked what they did. I mean, I kind of feel like Rita is a lot more, and what I was listening to Bibbs and Whitney talk about this show, that the monster truck show, and they were talking about how Power Rangers was a good one and everything. And he says, well, you can't defeat Rita in the first episode. You're gonna have to, there's teachers, or not teachers, but there's teen problems, monster, fight it with Power Rangers, get our ass kicked.
Right.
Then he grows. Zords. Then we destroy the city. And then we come back and go, hey, it's perfectly fine. Oh, I heard the Power Rangers just were down the street. And,
right.
I mean, I don't know.
Pretty formulaic.
It is formulaic, but
right.
I think, looking at it as not as huge Power Rangers fans, but not as huge, kind of the Power Rangers nostalgia sort of not died, but I've gotten more interested in other things and things like that. I mean, I think it was a good pilot. I mean, it really sort of, and I kind of like the pilot. I thought the pilot worked pretty good, and then of course they go back after it's okay, we destroyed the villain for now. Then they go, we just saw at the ending, Zordon basically leaves the rules that says, okay, rule number 1.
Use your power for evil.
For evil
personal
or
gain.
Personal gain. gluttony or whatever.
Right.
And it's like, you can't tell anybody you're a Power Ranger or you'll spoil the surprise.
And you can't like escalate.
You can't fight people for your own personal gain. But other than that, you could be the Power Rangers. I mean, who knew like this was gonna be, what it is,
Right.
how this became, a legacy. And I think we talked about on our Toys That Made Us. There's like one episode of Power Rangers season, like the Legend Battle.
Oh, like when they have like everyone comes into the same fight.
Yes,
Yeah.
and it was pretty epic. And I watched that I actually found that on television and watched that. I was like, okay, I'm going back into being 8 years old with a bucket of cereal. This is pretty awesome.
Nice. Yeah.
But I mean, what would you, as a pilot, watching it now? What would you, now you go on to doing something, on our next ones we're going to talk about the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers movie,
right.
And as the pilot, do you think the pilot was the pilot great?
No, yeah, this is a good pilot. Yeah, if I was a little kid, I'd be like super excited the whole time.
For the next one, yeah.
Yeah.
So on a scale from, how would you rate this pilot? Okay, let's talk about this one.
All right.
How would you rate the pilot as an 8-year-old kid? Yeah,
8-year-old is like, it's a 10, yeah.
10.
Yeah.
Now you're 30-something years old. How are you looking at it now? It needs some work.
Is it like something I would watch or like as a kid show?
Okay. Let's look at it this way. Would you watch it now, watching it with your nostalgic eye? Would you be like, oh, this was pretty good? Or if someone came up to you and said, Jay, what did you think of the pilot? How would you make it better? That's what I was going to say.
Okay.
Like, how would you?
Yeah, definitely. I don't think I would be sitting down and just to rewatch these just on the show shelf. But
I mean, would you like if someone said, what do you think of if you were like an executive? Like, I guess that's what I was going to say.
Yeah, no, I'd say this is a great pilot.
For what it is for
yeah.
a kid show.
Yeah.
And it does kind of like show what, I think so too. I think it's sort of, I think it's just the fast pace and,
right.
You kind of see where it's like, here's where the GAC commercial, I could probably see like, here's where, hey kids, you're watching Power Rangers.
Buy Power Ranger
toys. Like the action figures, and like, I just remember, like, I think we talked about on the Toys That Made Us video, there's that kid that had all the Power Rangers toys and like his hair was on fire. And I think it worked pretty well as a pilot. And like for me, I thought it was pacing wise. I thought it was a lot faster looking at it now, but it really kind of had like, okay, we're setting up. Here's who the characters are. Because if you look at all the other Power Rangers movie show episodes, it's like characters have to have a problem.
Right.
Rita says, oh, well, I need to put a monster in to escalate that problem. They fight the Rangers, or they fight.
Right.
They morph, fight them again. Then it grows. Zords wins, and then they're like, hey, I heard some robot destroyed the city. Oh, that city wasn't destroyed. It was perfectly fine.
Right.
And then they're like, oh, let's go and cut this cake open or something.
Right.
But yeah, it worked pretty good for the first episode,
Right.
I don't think it gets more exciting until the Green Ranger shows up or the White Ring, But it was a good idea for a pilot. So I give it, as an 8-year-old, I give it a 9. As looking at it now, maybe a 7.
No, that's
that's kind of what it is. So, guys, that is our take on Dave the Dumpster. We're gonna be back with more Power Rangers with Ivan Ooze and Mighty Morphin Power Rangers the movie, and we're gonna follow that with Power Rangers, Saban's Power Rangers as well. We might do Turbo, but that's
we'll see.
We'll see. I'm signing off. I'm Steve.
I'm Jay.
And it's Morphin time. Bye.